Hackers in Warzone suck. They ruin the game for everybody else, and I'm sure we've all experienced at least one individual who thinks that running aimbot and wallhacks is all just a bit of fun. These players will snipe you across the map, shoot you through walls, and generally just wipe you out before you can do anything about it. Truth be told, if you meet a modder in-game, there's often very little you can do about it. But sometimes, ever so rarely, it's possible to beat a hacker by using the game mechanics against them. This is exactly what happened in this duos match, and it was such a unique event that I wanted to share it with you. We ended up winning this game despite the blatant hacking we were dealing with. So, this video is going to be serving as both a gameplay breakdown and guide, giving you tips and tricks on how you can win in Warzone Duos, as well as covering some of the things you can do when you're put in a situation like this, when you're dealing with a player who's got an advantage over you in some way, whether it's skill or, in this case, by hacking, what you can do to level the playing field. If you're looking to improve your Warzone performance, then this video has got plenty to offer you. This match started off at military base, as it had a couple of contracts we could complete and was in a good position for later rotations based on the ring. Now, as with every drop in this area, we had a few enemy teams to deal with. Our tactic, and one that I would strongly recommend to other players, is to clear out your starting area as fast as you can. As soon as you've got weapons you're confident with, as well as some plates, take out any enemy teams that will give you a hard time later on. The longer you wait, the more time you give your enemies to loot up. It's a delicate balance of having enough loot to take on your enemies versus not letting them get enough to outgun you. Clearing out your area means you can loot up in peace, which makes grabbing necessities like loadouts much easier. This is exactly what we did. After taking care of the two enemy teams here, it was a simple exercise of scrounging up the cash for a loadout drop and then calling it in. As you can see, I went for the trusty growl from my drop, as it's an amazing all-around weapon, as I'm sure everybody is aware. Being limited by the effective range of your weapons is never a good thing, hence why I opt for a medium to long range primary that I can rely on in almost all situations. Carrying a specialised weapon such as a sniper or SMG is a luxury in Warzone, and it's something you should only do when you have a weapon you can rely on for all other engagements. At this point, we were pretty set with weapons and perks, so we decided to grab a bounty and pick up some kills. I think it's important to recognise that going for kills in Warzone is just as important as is going for wins. Chasing kills like this improves your overall performance. From things like game sense to handling your weapons, the best way to improve in Warzone is to get into gunfights and practice your skills. Getting in time in the Warzone in general is one thing, but getting in time fighting other players is quite another. If you want to improve as a player, the best way of doing so is to fight other players. If you die, then learn from your mistakes and improve. I am far from a perfect player, and I make mistakes, but I would never improve if I didn't give myself the chance. Taking a match slowly and defensively is a legitimate way of going for a win, and one that can work very well. But if you want to quickly improve as a player, it's not the best way of doing so. A case in point is my engagement with this player here. Instead of playing smart and using cover around me, I charge in head first and assume my accuracy will be enough to win the fight. It wasn't, and I end up straight in the gulag. This was a totally avoidable death, and just shows that it doesn't take a lot for your game to be over in a split second. Despite the fact that I have a full loadout and custom weapons, a basic MP7 being hip-fired through a window is enough to end my game. Thankfully, I win my gulag without costing my teammate a load of cash thanks to my cockiness. It's also pretty handy that there's a loadout drop right beside my teammate, which means I can quickly get my perks back without any problems. This kind of luck is not something you can rely on in Warzone, but this saving grace was definitely not something that I was going to turn down. Shortly after this, we got involved in a very boring tapping contest. We had a duo who were heckling us from the cliffs behind, which made pushing up impossible due to our low ground. We also couldn't back off for the same reason. Sometimes you just can't push an enemy team or retreat due to the position, so you end up in a stalemate like this. For some reason though, this team decided to just sit on rooftops nearby, and we simply took pot shots at each other for a while. Their static playstyle meant my teammate was able to flank them and kill them both in what can only be described as the most uneventful fight ever. After this, we decided that we wanted a bit more action to spice up the match. So, we grabbed a bounty contract and made our way towards the target. This entire engagement is a real testament to why teamwork and tacticals are so unbelievably important in Warzone. We were caught completely off guard by this team, as we expected them to be another floor down. Despite this, quickly tossing off a pair of stun grenades allows us to completely shift the balance of the fight and deal out a huge amount of damage. Notice how we don't rush in immediately, despite the fact that we've downed half their team. We're too low health to risk committing to a full push. Instead, taking the time to re-armour is what allows us to comfortably engage the last player and win this fight outright. Smart teamwork like this is what will routinely deliver you success in Warzone. The cash we earned from this bounty would also come in incredibly handy later on, as it allowed us to buy self-revives. Whilst they don't work all of the time, they offer an extra layer of protection that, when you've got money to burn, you may as well have. Based on the ring, we decided that our best chance of winning the match would be to take the high ground at the edge of the map. Getting high ground in the final few rings will allow you to dominate other players and control your gunfights much more easily. Getting into this position means that you've got cover from all angles, a great view over the rest of the zone, as well as easy rotations if the safe zone moves away from you. This kind of ring ending is very exposed, as there's very few buildings and little cover left inside the safe zone. When you're in this kind of situation, you need to keep in mind how you're going to rotate if the ring moves and you need to rotate to a different position. It is far easier to descend down onto a team than it is to push up to high ground whilst challenging enemies. The key is to plan ahead, so that you're not caught out by something you didn't expect. However, this is where we found ourselves in a bit of a tricky situation, as we started taking sniper fire from our north. Now I know that labelling a player as a hacker is not something that should be done lightly, but I feel like we have some seriously strong evidence in our favour. Only one of these players, Simander, would ever down either of us. He would down us a combined total of 5 separate times. He was able to continuously snipe my teammate despite the fact that we called in an airstrike on his position. I don't know of many players who have the confidence or the talent to take their time to line up sniper shots whilst under the threat of an imminent airstrike. Both of us are continuously headshot, my teammate by a sniper and me by an AR. He is able to consistently hit shots at incredibly small angles. We have a very clear high ground advantage in this situation, making his line of sight on us as small as possible, but that doesn't seem to make any difference. This guy's playstyle simply didn't make any sense, and his accuracy was bordering on absolute insanity. Both me and my teammate recognised that we were dealing with a pushing team who either seriously outclassed us, or who had some kind of aimbot giving them a helping hand. There were 3 factors that allowed us to come out on top in this fight. 1. Self-revives. These are the only reason that we were able to continually get back on our feet to keep challenging this team. 2. Never leaving ourselves exposed. We made sure to peek only the smallest angles for the shortest amount of time possible. Aimbots can only be so fast, and our position meant we could easily duck in and out of cover faster than we could be downed. 3. Stun grenades. These are the single biggest reason that we won this gunfight. They forced the enemies to slow down, as well as slowing their ability to rotate and aim in on us. This gave us just enough time to lay down the gunfire needed to wipe this team. This sort of engagement is incredibly unusual in Warzone, but finding yourself outpositioned or outmatched by an enemy team is much more common. You can apply the same principles that we use in this gunfight to your own. Always make the most of whatever cover you have. Keep yourself protected and don't waste plates taking unnecessary damage. Positioning will allow you to keep an upper hand over your enemies. No matter how good an enemy player is, if you have a superior position, their life will be much harder. Tactical grenades can completely change how a fight plays out. You've seen them used multiple times in this video to great effect. Blinding or stunning an enemy makes them a defenseless target, allowing you to drop them with ease. I would strongly recommend utilising the powerful range of tacticals in this game. They can be used in any situation, and are extremely powerful in confined spaces where enemies just can't get out of the way. I'm fairly confident that this team was not legitimate, and was abusing some kind of third-party aimbot. However, if I'm wrong and if you disagree, feel free to let me know in the comments. After this hectic gunfight was over, I decided to make a quick trip to buy back my teammate. One advantage when you beat an enemy team as good as this is that you can be fairly sure the area they came from is going to be free from enemies. This team nearly battered us, so I didn't have to worry much about any enemies on my way to the buy station. Using a buy station late game is a very risky manoeuvre, and not one I would recommend normally. However, this station was so far removed from the other areas that I was fairly sure it was safe enough to use. Going back up to our previous high ground is where this game came to an end. A singular player was left with the task of pushing up this hill right towards us. High ground like this meant that I could simply mow him down as he was left without any cover to use. This was a very unusual win, and one that I think was well deserved. Through teamwork and tactics, we were able to outplay numerous other enemy teams in order to get the win. I hope this gameplay has demonstrated the importance of an intelligent playstyle, and how using your brain can allow you to defeat players who have a clear advantage over you, whether they're hacking or not.